This is National Chess Master Auto Rats at ICC here for Team 4545 League. This game was played in round 1 of team event number 61, and it was selected as game of the week. It's a pretty exciting game. Kind of went back and forth. Let's have a quick look. Normally, FIDE Master Nfork selected this game, and in the past we've collaborated where he's provided written notes and I've incorporated them after. I don't know what he's said about this because for some reason the Team 45 page is down and I'm unable to log in. So I don't know what he said, so I'm going to have to just message this YouTube link onto Argaduri and let him post it because I'm headed for Las Vegas tomorrow for the National Open. So anyway, long story. Let's continue, and here we have the good old Scotch gambit. Now when I downloaded the PGN, it calls this the Ready Dubois defense, I think, or something like that, or Dubois-Réti. I ran into this opening. I was playing black just a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks ago, and I'll show you what my opponent played. My opponent captured on d6 and passant, and it's not a very aggressive or popular way to handle this as white, and I was up a pawn and nursed that pawn home to victory. So I looked it up later. I know that bishop b5 is the main line, and I'm pretty much out of my book here. I at least off the top of my head, I don't remember all the lines, and I'm not going to sit here and try to show every book line that exists or research the book line and present that, because that's not the purpose of these videos. If you're going to play an opening that's been discussed many times, it's your job to know it. I don't think White knew it as well as maybe he would have liked, because White doesn't really get anything from this opening, and we'll see that in just a few moves. Taking a glance at the time, the clocks are gaining time, so they're both playing within their book knowledge because they're gaining time and can play these moves quickly. So I'm assuming this is still a main line. Now e6, let's see, how long do you take on that? Yeah, he's taking 5 minutes here, so, and just backing up, you're taking 6 minutes there. So maybe White's running out of his book already. That doesn't seem, it seems to me like White should know this line a little deeper, because, he knows the bishop b5 line. Therefore, he probably knows, I'm assuming this is the most common response. And then, just kind of scrolling forward, it seems like White's next move is just trying to push the envelope a little bit. White sacrifices his e-pawn with e6, and he did take some time on it. Now, the problem with sacrificing a pawn is, first off, you've already sacrificed a pawn, right? Let's see, White has, no, White hasn't yet. Okay, he's going to sacrifice another one in a minute. Okay, but the problem I see with this move is black wasn't attacking this pawn on e5 in any way, shape, or form. Also, the only piece White has developed is this knight on d4. Well, yeah, he's castled, but the rest of his pieces are sitting here on the back rank, and they're not really helping. Although he's going to get a check, and we'll see that in a moment. I just don't think it's enough. And now when he plays knight b3, he's giving black some pressure on the f2 square. I don't think that's necessarily wise. Okay, somebody's Skyping me. You could probably hear the Skype thing. He'll just have to wait, whoever it is. Okay. Now here's the point of White's, still at it. Here's the point of White's e6 is to come down here and give a check, and now stop black from castling kingside. But now White's got his queen developed and in a menacing position. But if you look at black's position, 3 minor pieces are developed, and black's got a double pawn on c6, but White's certainly not poised to take advantage of that in any way, shape, or form. The pawn on e6 is weak, but the same is true there. How is White going to get at it? Okay, so let's move forward. and black plays queen f6, which again is perfectly logical. It keeps the white queen out of g7. It puts more pressure on f2, and as a result, white's kind of pretty much having to force to do what he does in here. Plays bishop e3, and just to stop that pressure on f2. And let's see what black does. Okay, black goes pawn hunting. Now, is that wise? That's a good question. What about just a simple castle? Okay. Now, if white says, I decide I don't want to have you take me. Well, even though I might get a tempo if I take with the pawn, castling gets the king to safety right now, and it preserves the idea of maybe going here. Next move. And now let's see. Suppose white takes. Well, black can just take back with his a pawn, and I'm sure he's pretty safe here. His king looks reasonably comfortable. Let's see. Maybe white could pry open with a4. Do you want to take with the other pawn and repair the pawns? Yeah, maybe that works. That seems to be okay. Maintaining the threat here. White probably doesn't want to take on b6. White has 6 pawns, black has 7. And white's got 1 pawn loose. Let's hit revert. So I'm thinking castling is a perfectly logical move. Now white has to decide if he wants to give up a pawn or not. Maybe he'll play c3. Didn't really want to put the knight there anyway. At least this saves his pawn, but what does white really have here in compensation for that pawn? And I'm not sure he really has anything. I think it's a favorable position for black. Black has the 2 bishops, even though this one isn't doing him much good. It'll come to life later. E5 will be played, maybe even c5, and this bishop will eventually find some activity. So let's move forward. Well, I have to revert actually, but he grabs the pawn, and for those that go pawn hunting, if you can get away with it, you're going to have a winning ending. But as it turns out, well, we'll see how it turns out here a little bit. We'll see that black doesn't really get as much out of the game as he maybe could have if he just completed his development by castling. Okay, so now white grabs, or black makes a trade, and black goes and steals another pawn. So this is one interesting way to handle the gambit. Handle this position. Go ahead and snatch these pawns, make white prove something. I'll always prescribe to development being preferred, but here white's going to have to come up with something quick, or he's just down 3 pawns without any compensation. One thing that snatching these pawns has done is it's opened up 2 files, and if the black king castles queenside, because he can't castle kingside, he could be walking right into a barrage of heavy artillery. Okay, so now queen g7, but this just forces black to castle what he should do. And now, like I say, the rook starts coming into play, and it's at this point that I think black starts to slip up. Before I look at how much time he's taken, let's talk about the position for a moment. Okay, for the moment, black's queen is on pre. He's going to have to deal with that. So logically, nature says that you want to move the queen, and if you can, get the queens off the board, because if the queens magically disappear, black's 3 pawns up, right? Black still has 7 pawns. Count them up: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 to 4. If black can get the queens off, white's busted. So white doesn't want to, will obviously not want to trade queens. But the logical move seems to be queen f8. Now, if white takes, which he won't, that just develops this black rook. And if white grabs this pawn on c6, here, let's just look at it. Big deal, okay? Now, who cares about the bishop pair? Just take it off. Okay, and now black is simply two clear pawns ahead in the endgame, right? He has 6 pawns, white has 4, and look what's falling. Whoops. Well, you don't want to take that. Rook takes bishop, but then you can play rook takes bishop. But you could always just take with the with this and go back up 3 pawns, right? Mild pressure on c7, but it can be dealt with. Okay, so what else was there for white? Don't want to trade queens, so the only place to avoid a queen trade is to come d5, and black just goes and offers another queen trade, and white can't accept this. He gets 1 pawn back, but black will just happily trade this position down. Okay, let's just get rid of that guy. Bring the king up, and the rook retreats, and black offers a rook trade, and white can't accept it. Even though 1 pawn is doubled, this has got to be a win for black. So the move now we'll see the move he played. He took the knight, and didn't take much time on it. Okay, so let's see, 39:21. His clock went down 1 minute and 16 seconds, meaning he took 2 minutes and 1 second on the move. When you're playing these league games, you do want to take your time. You have nearly 2 minutes a move on the average. I'll quote that for those that aren't watching my videos regularly. With 45-45, you want to determine what we call an E time. You do that by saying you take your minutes, and then 2/3 of the increment, you add them together. And so in this case, it'd be 45 plus 30. That'll give you 75. So in effect, another thing in there, for the most part, the average game of chess lasts about 40 moves. Usually by move 40, not always, but usually the game is either over or it's pretty clear who's got the upper hand. And all your time controls that you play in real tournaments, FIDE, anywhere across the United States or Europe, pretty much for the most part are based on 40 moves in a certain amount of time. Okay, and then you get time added to the clock, and usually a sudden death, an hour or half an hour or something. And I still don't know why these internet servers can't put a secondary time control into their server where you can set up, say, you can play 45-45 with a bonus 30 minutes added when you reach move 45. Certainly help the players that get in time trouble. They wouldn't have to be living off the increment. But anyway, that's another story. Something the servers need to work on. But I mentioned all this because black's got a lot of luxuries here. First off, let's look at the time. He's made 18 moves. He only needs to make 22 moves in 40 minutes to make that magic move 40. Okay, but he's going to get 45 seconds every time he moves. So 22 times 45, what's that going to give him? About 900 more seconds or 15 more minutes. Throw that in, I'm just doing quick math, 56 minutes approximately for 22 moves. So black has been moving a little quicker than the normal pace of just under 2 minutes a move, 75 divided by 40. So black has the luxury to take more than 2 minutes a move. And he has another luxury. He has an 8-minute time advantage on the clock. So if black needs to even take 20 minutes on this move just to find queen f8, he'll find the rest. If he analyzes it carefully, he'll see that queen f8, queen e5, queen d6. Now white can't trade queens. Where's he going to put the queen? Let's go threaten a check, okay? That really white's attack is kind of going to run dry here. Go ahead and play c5, give the check. Now we got to deal with the knight where we want to put it. b5. I'm just kind of playing a line. Hey, I'll just take it. Okay, and now I'm going to reactivate my bishop, and white tries to play for mate, And black comes here and says, hey, let's trade queens. And white looks at that and says, but if I trade queens, I lose my attack. But black says, well, that's okay, I'm going to attack. And here comes a check. And what's happening here? Well, black's up a whole bunch of pawns. And I can't play queen or bishop d4, but you can just bring the queen back here. Hi, you want to trade queens? No thanks. Are you sure? I don't know if c5's any good. I'm just kind of having fun here. Whoops, I went all the way back. Okay, well, let's see. Forward 18. No, forward 36. Or 37. That's the command. I love blitzing. Okay, see? Look at that. Bang, we're back where we belong. Anyway, black takes this knight, and suddenly, I'm not sure how black's going to use his pieces. Now, that bishop was a really good piece he had. And now this bishop, we've talked about it, it's not going to get active yet. You have an open file to work on, but that's going to be covered. And, this bishop can always even park itself on e3, it has to. But also, more importantly, this b file is now open. And suddenly black has to deal with that. So I'm thinking if black had just stopped and taken his time, he would have realized that queen f8 was a better move for all the reasons I've just shown. But then if he'd played it, this game wouldn't have ended up game of the week, okay? So that's another way to look at it. But you get similar situations in chess. The number one reason people lose games is they move too quick. And when you have a time advantage, and the position starts getting critical, use it in your favor. Stop and think, okay? Black could take 20 minutes on this position and still have enough time to finish the game. He would still have 20 minutes on his clock, another 15 minutes he'll get on his increment, 35 minutes for 20 moves. That's basically almost on pace with where you should be if you're using an equal 1.75 minutes every move. Okay, so there you have it. What does black do? Okay, black makes a little error for his king and keeps the pressure on e3. And naturally, white's going to have to operate on the b file. And this makes sense. Take control of the center. There's a lot of squares under black's control here with the queen and the pawns, okay? And it does open up this bishop, but white needs to try to find an attack here. And he goes and takes that pawn. Black figured it was okay to give up that pawn. But now, let's talk about this. Suddenly, white's only down 2 pawns, right? Black has 6, white has 4. And, by the way, white's threatening a mate in 1. Let's illustrate. Play a dumb move. Oop, checkmate. Okay, so black's got to deal with a threat. Had black thought a little longer on his 19th move, he may have seen this position. But he moves his king, which is smart. And all white can do is attack. But suddenly, here comes a little counterplay. It looks like white's winning the exchange back, and that should be enough to hold the game. And they call that the quality in Europe, winning a rook for a minor piece. Black's got a whole bunch of interesting choices here, or white does rather. What about queen c5? See if we play another dumb move for white, or for black, we got a checkmate again. Whoopsie. Okay. So, don't have to take this rook just yet. What if you stop and threaten mate? Oh, wait, no, that's not going to work. You jet it? No, that's going to work. I was thinking you pick up this rook, but you didn't get the queen back. Whoops. Yeah, see, I miss one movers all the time. It's kind of funny. I'm proud of them, the fact that I miss one movers, because if I don't miss a one mover, my play's pretty sharp. Okay, so queen c5 certainly looks like a very playable move. How's black going to deal with this? King f7. Ugh. This is just dropping a rook. And then white's up a rook, right? So let's see, what was I saying? Queen c5. What's black going to do here? You can't take the rook even. That mate doesn't go away. It's still there. Okay, so you can't put the bishop in the way. That mate's still going. My goodness. It's a crazy position, huh? Queen c5. Okay, I guess you have to play queen f7. But that puts another, or do you? That puts another attacker on f8. So I must be missing something, or white just flat out missed queen c5. Let's see. Queen e7 is the threat. Well, you can always move the rook. Yeah, that'll work. That stops the threat, and you have a defender. Okay, so queen c5, nice try, but it fails to rook e8. Okay, there's a one mover. Okay, so white goes and grabs the exchange back, but black has some compensation here, even though white's picking up another pawn. Black has some compensation in the fact that he's got some monster pass pawns on the board. Now, this requires a whole new evaluation. My gut feeling at this point is that white is winning. And I quantify that by the experience that I'm aware of rook versus minor piece. Okay? But there's a little wrinkle on here. The queens are on the board. That's the wrinkle. But let's talk about how does white play this for a win. Okay, what white needs to do is try to get the queens off the board and then reach a position where the rook and king not only halt those black pawns, but the a pawn becomes a factor and distracts black enough where white can come in and blockade those pawns, win one of them, and eventually reach a simplified winning endgame. The best book or series of books for endgames, I think, is I call it the Averbach series, because Grandmaster Yuri Averbach co-authored wrote 7 of the 8 volumes. His name doesn't appear on one of them, but he's probably involved in some way. These cover all your piece versus piece ending possibilities, or piece versus no piece, and bishop versus pawns or knight versus pawns. Curiously, they don't have the rook versus pawns endings in there, but the 8 volumes: pawn endings, rook endings, bishop endings, knight endings, bishop versus knight endings, queen endings, queen versus rook or minor piece endings, and then rook versus minor piece endings. And there's a set path to play these endings when you have the rook versus minor piece. And generally speaking, the rook can outduel the bishop, and it can definitely outduel the knight, which when there's pawns on both sides of the board, because the rook moves quick, the knight doesn't. Now, just for your reference, if you want to see an historical game, go back to the Fischer-Spassky match of 1972 for the World Championship, the final game, 21. It was funny. I think Fischer played the Sicilian defense and turned it into a Scotch opening. Spassky couldn't believe he got hoodwinked into that happening. And believe it or not, how does a Sicilian turn into a double king pawn? Well, Fischer did it. But the final position was resigned at adjournment. Spassky had two connected pass pawns and a bishop, and Fischer had a rook, but it was a theoretical loss. And back in the old days, they did you adjourned a game after 40 moves or 5 hours of play, and then while you rested, your seconds, somebody that traveled along with you. Fischer's secretary was second was Grandmaster William Lombardy, and Spassky, he had a second. It might have been Geller, I don't remember, but it didn't matter. He had the whole USSR as his second. They were sending telegrams and phone calls to Moscow. I'm sure they were filling up the airwaves with communications back to the Soviet Union. But anyway, a little history there. So back to this game. It's black to play, but let's see what black does first, and I can maybe talk about a white plan a little better. Okay. Black activates his queen. Now, this looks like a pretty good move. Let's consider white's alternatives. Well, I imagine white's playing for a win, and based on the way he does play, he was playing for a win. One thing to do is make a sacrifice back, if he can do it, and it entails some risk. The idea is to sack on c6. But if you do that, you're kind of saying, I think I'm going to play for a draw here. Was a draw ever offered by either side? I have no clue. You know, these things don't show up in the game score. But let's look at this for a second. Now we're going into queen ending. Okay. If black retreats his king, white could start looking for perpetual check. Okay, that's one way to get a draw. Or black could try to advance his king. Now, white can't grab this pawn on d5 because of the back rank, but he gets a tempo check here. And if white wants to repeat the position, it'd be pretty easy. Could white play this for a win? Well, now we're looking at queen endings. My gut feeling is that this is probably a draw, even though white has an outside pass pawn. Black has a pretty powerful center pawn, and even if somehow the queens get exchanged and white's left with an outside pass pawn, this is one of those positions where the outside pass pawn is a weakness, because black's king is a little more active and can stop it, and as long as if the black king is too close, he could even win that pawn. And if the white king's in the neighborhood, I don't think white can win it, simply because black will maintain a protected pass pawn, or he should. First step, well, let's get the queens off. Okay, let's just kind of tinker around here. Okay, now I'm going to put the king here. Well, let's not play h3. That just loses a tempo. Let's bring the king over. Let's get the king over, and make a move here. Let's go here for the fun of it. Now here, take. And I'm just kind of like trying to demonstrate something. F3. Let's put the king here. Oops, well, we can go there. That's fine. Maybe white could be in a little bit of trouble here. His king can't move, so if he runs out of pawn moves, he's going to lose. I don't think f4 saves him. The idea being, give up this pawn to bring the king in, give up that pawn, but then black's going to have 3 on 2. Might be his only hope, because eventually when he runs out of pawn moves, here, I'll just run him out of pawn moves. It's pretty easy to do. Now, you can see he loses the b pawn, right? And he thus loses the game. So let's back it up and have some fun here. Maybe you'll learn something about king and pawn endings. Okay, let's try this move. Of course, black doesn't have to take. Black can always push. But then white's getting counterplay. Let's see. Now white's suddenly doing okay here, I think. Probably winning now. The white king can stop the pawns, and there's no stopping that pawn from pushing to f5. Okay, so you need to take. Now here white's playing to draw. Or maybe win. I don't think white can win. It's black to play. He shouldn't be moving his pawns. They'll become targets. He needs to send his king over in a hurry. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe white's winning this. I'm probably butchering it. King and pawn endings. I have a friend that's been FIDE master ever since the title came out. And he said, I don't play too many king and pawn endings, but every time I do, I take every minute on my clock trying to figure those beasts out, because so often the difference between a win, draw, and a loss is just one move at the wrong time. But White's looking pretty good here. Black's going to have to play surround of some kind. You know, his king's going to have to be able to eat pawns. Let's see, let's just do that. And maybe Black's making progress here. Oh, look at that. Now Black's winning. White got carried away. I think Black's winning. Yeah, Black's winning. So, got a little too carried away there. Maybe it is a draw. Just go in for the pawns. Go for the kill. Let's see here. Take. No, I've done something wrong, horribly wrong for Black. I'll show you in a moment. And now White wins. Black shouldn't have taken the H pawn. He should have gone after the G pawn. Or should he? Let's see. Yeah, you got to go here. Okay. Now the point is, if king here, you take this. See what I mean by the position can be changed from a win, a loss, to a draw, just like that. Now, it looks like it's probably a draw now. How you want to have king versus king? Okay, so let's come back to this position. So can White win this? Well, it's a lot trickier when the queens are on the board, simply because, and how do you trade them off? And here the way to get them off was to first give up the exchange, then go into a king and pawn inning. Anyway, he plays his rook here. Pressure on e4. Black attacks and defends. And now the white rook is deactivated. And here come the pawns. So I think this is the point when White should just say, I think we should I should play for a draw here. And he starts getting the queen to get ready to administer checks with that in mind. Here comes the pawn. And here come the checks. And Black tries to run now. Here, White gets greedy. He grabs the pawn. That's awful dangerous. But how else does White make progress? You know, this pawn is becoming very, very dangerous, and this bishop is awful close to controlling that queening square as well. And with the rook deactivated on f1, it's not clear how White's going to activate it and suddenly start generating mate threats. But you know, he could have done it. It works out it was okay to take the pawn, but White's got to be very, very careful. Now he's weakened his king position, but he's trying for tricks, and Black finds a nice resource. Good defensive move. Did you see it coming? The purpose is that if you take the bishop, Black hits a perpetual check, and here it can't. The game will just end in a few moves, or if not right away, because both players will agree. So Black here is willing to take a draw. But White isn't. White stops and guards. He's trying to find a way to win. And now he can't tickle the bishop any further because his pawn is pinned. So he activates the queen again. Let's see, just an idea. What if he tries... Well, if he tries king h2, this pawn is just getting more dangerous. So... I don't know, can Black get away with this? Let's see. Queen here. I don't want to trade queens. I don't know, Black can just come back and I'll call it a draw. Anyway, and here the repetition starts, but all of a sudden White goes for the win. And let's stop and reevaluate this thing now that's become critical. Both players are using a little too much time, or not enough time. But black's move's been kind of forced. But look at the clock here. White has just checked black twice. He can check him again, and chances are offer a draw and it'll be accepted. Okay? But white has 33 minutes on his clock. And here, he made that move. He gained 25 seconds, meaning he only took 20 seconds of time. It's probably okay, but you know, you're starting to go into the risk factor. Now, how important is it to win? Well, if it's important to win, yeah, play a move like Rook B1, but only after adequate thought. And you can't do that in 20 seconds. If you're Magnus Carlsen, okay, fine. Maybe you can. Probably you can. We'll say that you can, okay? But you're not Magnus Carlsen. I'm not Magnus Carlsen. Okay? Now that pawn's really dangerous. You have to see that move coming. And now it comes the time to just start the checks. And maybe white figured he'd get his perpetual check this way. And if he's lucky, he'll get a mate. Well, you know, if the dog hadn't stopped to relieve himself, he would have caught the fox, okay? That's an old saying, right? You had the perpetual check there, white, because black ends up with a really, really terrific move here that white obviously overlooked. And here I think white's happy with the draw, and suddenly a rude surprise comes. It's under the well, I'm not going to tell you the theme. You might want to pause the video and give yourself a little quiz. Okay, you're back. The theme is, if we resume the video, the theme is interference. Bishop F5. A lot of people don't consider moves like this. I can't move that. He takes it. But then right now the black bishop is interfering with the white checks, and if white takes the bishop, it's interfering with the white checks, and game over. So all of a sudden we've seen white's time go down a little bit. He did start thinking about it once he played there, but he still didn't take enough time. And he took 4 minutes on that. He must have seen the interference, but I think it's coming no matter what. You know, there it is again. And this looks awful grim for white. You know, this pawn is not only queening, it's queen with checks. So what's poor white to do here? You know, it's just like yuck. I guess you can bring the rook back. The point being it's pinned. Let's see now. King up here. But suddenly, well, I guess white should be happy with the draw. But, you know, maybe this is a draw because you might be winning this piece back. As long as that's pinned, you're threatening to take it. Yeah, this might be a draw. But anyway, is there any difference? Let's see. Queen F8 is what he played. What about Rook B1 now? No, he played there. Okay, what about Rook here? I don't think that's going to work. I still don't. Let's see. I mean, this is awful risky to say white can force black to take a draw. Black's a piece up even though it's pinned. And black's king is active, and let's see. King, what about just king G5? That allows the queen check. So what I'm trying to do is trying to get a position where, although it's only 3 pawns each, might still be a draw there. Let's see. I'm probably missing something terrific by black. I'm thinking Rook B1 is the best defense. He didn't play it. What if we just bring the king closer? That threatens a mate in 2. Queen takes f2 check. Yeah, that might be playable in the underlying. Threatens queen takes f2 check and queen g2 mate. And then on rook f1, then queen. Yeah, white's busted here. Well, anyway, let's finish off the game. Rook check, or rook pin, but it's turning out similar to what we saw. White gets one queen back, but he's still down a rook. And he can take the bishop, but he chooses to go for checks because taking the bishop would lead to mate. Now the bishop isn't pinned, so black saves it. And the black king is finding shelter. And look at, white's been now using all that time he could have used and should have used to just call it a draw with the perpetual that he had. And now the bishop comes back again, returns to the scene of the crime. Oh my goodness, how wonderful. And now it's checkmate. Very nice game. So the lesson here is take your time. Time's the #1 reason you lose games. And both sides could have taken their time in a couple of situations. Black's decision to take on d4 certainly made the game very interesting. White's decision not to take the perpetual check also made the game interesting. And bishop f5 was a great move. You live to see moves like that. But it was a very entertaining game. This one, his video's now gone over 41 minutes. Because it was such an entertaining game, I'm happy to take that much time. Now, normally, I won't make a league game when one side should have won the game and ended up losing. I'm not exactly sure where white was ever winning this. He won the exchange back, but the win was entirely technical, and the way he approached it, or the way the game approached, his rook got deactivated and those pawns got dangerous. White was never able to try to find a way to trade queens and get them off the board. So that's where white messed up by not taking a draw, because the black pawns just got too dangerous. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I look forward to making a video for round 2, and thanks so much. Bye now.